Hi, and welcome to Chamber Chat TV. I'm Danielle McFadden. I'm the president of the Greater Lowell Chamber of Commerce, and like we did last month, we're coming to you with one guest so we can really go in depth to what they do, and we feel like this is such an important message for the community. Mm-hmm. So we're so excited. We have Margie Pierce here from TMS East.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Great. We had you on the radio before.
Yes, yeah.
And then after that, you had ribbon cutting, which was one of the best ribbon cuttings we've ever been to.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah, you have a great team.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
Thank you for having us back,
Yes.
having me back.
Happy to have you here. So tell us a little bit about the company and where you're located locally, because you have multiple locations throughout the state.
Sure. So we just opened in Chelmsford, Mass. And we have sites in Leominster and Westboro and Worcester. Those are some of the other sites kind of in this general area. At Achieve TMS East, we provide treatment for treatment-resistant depression. And we recently got FDA approval to treat obsessive-compulsive disorder as well.
I think when you were on the radio, you were in the process of it, but I don't think it was official yet.
Right.
Congratulations.
Right. Thank
Breaking
you.
news.
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about the success rate of treatment and what you have experienced overall with your patients over the past few years?
Sure. So, I mean, research shows that TMS is there's a high success rate. And deep TMS, which is what we provide, the studies show up to 75% response rate. And response rate means that the person would see a decrease of 50% or more of their symptoms. And then you see in studies about 50% remission, which means generally 80% drop in symptoms or basically symptom free. So I would say that our results are fairly comparable to the studies that were done. So it's very exciting. We've interviewed multiple patients who have had dramatic changes in their life and have actually sought us out to say, like, we want to spread the word. Like, we want other people who felt like we did to give this a chance because they have nothing to lose. And we had everything to gain by doing it. We even interviewed a couple recently who both went through the treatment at the same time and both went into remission.
Excellent. Yeah, during your ribbon cutting, there was like a little room where you could sit and get some more information, and there was a video of a woman who had gone through treatment, and her story was remarkable in the way that she interacted with the staff there, and they really got to know her and like saw improvements in her before she even noticed it.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of our goals at Achieve is not only providing this, groundbreaking treatment, but it's also about how we treat the people that come in our offices and the environment we provide for them. So I think that people both respond to the treatment, but also feel like they were well taken care of when they come into our sites, and that's really key.
So what is TMS treatment for depression?
Okay. So generally speaking, treatment-resistant depression is somebody who's been on multiple medications. Insurance define it generally as about 4 antidepressants, and they didn't respond, or they had side effects, or they maybe responded in the beginning and then it lost its ability to work. And then also they've been in some form of therapy, psychotherapy, and both with the medication and the psychotherapy, there hasn't been progress. And so we bring patients in who are still in treatment with their therapist and psychiatrist, but they're not getting better. And sometimes the patients refer themselves, sometimes the providers refer the patients. And what we do is they wear a helmet similar to this, although it has a blue front. And the actual helmet has a coil in it that provides magnetic stimulation to the brain that basically gets the neurons firing, and it sort of wakes the brain back up. So if you look at people who have severe or chronic depression, often you're not seeing the lights on in the brain. There's not the same blood flow. And what happens with TMS is it increases the blood flow, it increases the neurons and firing, and essentially turns the lights back on.
Incredible.
Yes.
Really is amazing.
And when they come in multiple times, which I'm sure we'll get into, the longer they come in and the more times they come in, that's how it keeps it so it will sustain for a longer period of time.
We'll talk a little bit about kind of that process as well. So is this treatment, TMS treatment, FDA approved?
It is FDA approved. So surface TMS, which is a little different than what we do, it's a different kind of machine that they use, was FDA approved in 2008, and deep TMS was approved in 2013.
And when I was at your ribbon cutting, somebody said something as you get older, your brain shrinks.
Yeah,
something like that I never even heard before, and how the deep
it's
is
sad
so
a little bit, but yeah,
I'm already feeling it.
So around the age of 55, your brain starts to shrink, and so it pulls away from the skull. So with surface TMS, generally you're penetrating about 2 centimeters into the brain. So if you think about if there's a separation between your skull and your brain, then it's actually, you're not really sure what it's actually hitting. With deep TMS, the pulses actually penetrate up to 6 centimeters. So there's a much higher chance that it's going to actually not only penetrate the surface areas, but actually go to deeper structures of the brain.
So interesting. And yeah. I also got the opportunity to kind of put my hand and feel the coil as it was happening, and it's nothing that hurts. It's a sensation, but
yes.
And everybody that works there goes through has to actually go through it.
We all test it out to see what it feels like. Yeah, absolutely.
So what are some of the warning signs that someone is depressed?
So, I mean, there could be a number of warning signs, but generally speaking, obviously the biggest thing is somebody feels sad on a regular basis and just unhappy in their life. It's sort of more than the blues, but there's a continual daily feeling of unhappiness or sadness. Often people who are depressed may find that they cry more frequently than maybe the average person does. Often people who are depressed will find less pleasure in things. So things maybe they used to play the guitar, and when they played the guitar, they just loved it. Like it just, felt good to their soul. And now, number one, they have no interest in playing the guitar, or number two, if they play it, they have no pleasure with it. I think that's another big thing. Often you see sleep disturbance. It could be that they're not sleeping enough and they can't sleep, or they're sleeping too much. Appetite changes. Either they're continually hungry, or they don't want to eat at all. And then things like lack of energy, lack of motivation, feelings of guilt that sort of surpass maybe the average person, might occasionally feel guilty. They have this sort of chronic feeling of guilt, and difficulty making decisions. And in some cases, people have thoughts about wanting to be dead. Not every person that's depressed has those thoughts, but there's a fair amount of people that have suicidal thoughts.
It's so great that we're educating the public on this, especially around the holidays. It may be you haven't seen a loved one for a long time and you notice a change in them. The people that live with them might not notice it as much if it's a gradual thing. But,
Sure.
It's great to keep these conversations going.
And often people who are depressed don't always know that they're depressed. Just like our patients don't always know when they're starting to get better. But if you ask their spouse or their parent who's sitting in the room with them, they're like, oh yeah, we've noticed, they're less irritable or whatever it is. But often people themselves don't identify as being depressed, or when they are depressed and being treated, they can't always tell if they're starting to feel better.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I know everybody's probably thinking about the insurance aspect of this.
Sure.
So you did mention that they can get referred by a doctor, or they can refer themselves.
Yes.
What about insurance?
So insurance does cover pretty much all commercial insurances and Medicare and Medicaid. There's different processes we have to go through depending on the insurance, and we have to get prior authorization, and we have to follow the policies of the insurance. But generally speaking, if the person's had multiple medication trials that haven't worked or caused side effects, if they've been in therapy and it hasn't worked, And then there's a few contraindications which we can get into. If they don't have any of the contraindications, we can submit a prior auth, and 9 out of 10 times we'll get insurance approval on the case. So,
what are some of the reasons why you wouldn't get approval?
Usually it's around they might not feel like the person had an adequate amount of medication trials, or they feel like maybe a different medication could have been tried. If the person didn't have therapy, it's really dependent on insurance, and some are a little stricter than others.
What is the process like if somebody wants to come to Achieve to learn more?
Sure. So they can come to us in many different ways. They can self-refer, a family member can refer, a provider can refer. Once they come into us, we would set up what we call an informational session. And in the informational session, they'll meet with a technician who will go over what TMS is. They'll show them the machine. If they want to put their hand inside and feel the coil, they can feel the coil. And then we get a little bit of information about their insurance, about their medication history, and so forth. If the client is interested in moving forward, and we don't have any sort of red flags as to why it wouldn't make sense to move forward, we would then set them up with a psychiatric eval with one of our doctors, and then they would go through kind of the whole history, make sure that they actually have a diagnosis of major depression, and that it is treatment resistant, like we talked about, the medication failures, the therapy failures, and that there aren't any contraindications. And then we would proceed with the prior authorization if we needed it, and then we would move forward with the treatment from there.
Now, if somebody for some reason couldn't get insurance to cover this, but they want to do it, there's a self-pay option as well.
There is a self-pay option. And, we are willing to work with people around their financial situation as well, but we do offer self-pay. I haven't really run into many people that had to go that route, because generally speaking, we can work with the insurance to pay.
And it's so obvious that everybody at Achieve really, truly cares and just wants to see you call them patients, clients?
Patients or clients.
To be better, feel better.
Yeah, that's our mission and our goal.
Can TMS therapy be used to treat any types of other mental health issues? I know we've talked a little bit about OCD.
Yeah, so we recently got FDA clearance for OCD, which is really exciting because, people who suffer with OCD and haven't had good responses to medications understand that it can really be debilitating to their ability to function from day to day. So we are going to be starting to treat patients, not in every site to begin with. We're going to have one in Northampton, one in Worcester, and one in Newton to begin with.
Right. So
So in each part of the state, the one difference with OCD right now is the insurance companies aren't officially on board yet. And generally when something gets FDA approved, it takes time for insurance companies to get the codes and so forth to be able to work with insurance. So we're trying to work with insurances to see if we can get single case agreements. But again, we have a self-pay option for people right now with OCD. So, people can call in and we can see what we can do to work with it, but it's a little bit different than the depression.
What is the process like when you agree to the course of treatment? How often do you have to go? Do you need to get a ride?
Right. So for the depression, you don't have to, you don't need a ride. You can drive yourself to and from. Generally speaking, it's about a 30-minute appointment. We have a wide range of hours from, 6 or 7 in the morning all the way till 8 at night. So sometimes people come before work, sometimes they come on their lunch break, sometimes they come after work. So we really try to be accessible, and we're also all our sites are on public transportation routes. So
interesting.
Yeah,
that makes so much sense.
So that if people need to take public transportation, they can. For the people who have Medicaid, PT1 forms actually work, which is a form you use for people when they need to get transportation to a doctor's appointment. So Mass Health will cover transportation to come to TMS. That's often a question people have for us, so I figured I'd put it out there. So generally speaking, people come 5 days a week. It's a commitment for about 6 weeks, and then we taper for 3 weeks. twice a week. So it totals about 9 weeks, and each case is different. We may adjust the timing, but generally speaking, people have to be prepared to commit to coming in 5 days a week.
And then maybe a year after, if they notice some signs keeping back, can they come kind of
Yes.
like a booster?
Yeah.
I don't even know what you would call it, but
Right. So
Can we call it a booster?
there's a couple different routes, but depending on how they're doing, some insurances have certain period of time before they can come back in. But we work with the patients around this. But yes, there is a potential, and we encourage people to let us know if they're noticing any dips in their mood, and we'll work with them and their insurance company around that for retreatment.
And you mentioned that at kind of the onset of treatment, they see a on-staff doctor.
Yes.
And will they see them again?
Yes.
During the course of
Yeah, they
treatment?
generally will see them. They see them for the psychiatric eval, and they'll generally see them 2 to 3 times, possibly more during the course of treatment.
Right, and the
Yeah.
technician really gets to know them as
Yes.
well. I mean, obviously, because they're together 5 days a
Absolutely,
week.
absolutely. And often they develop a very strong bond. You know that it's hard when treatment is going to end because they've been coming there every day for 9 weeks, or at least for 6 weeks.
And during treatment, they get to watch TV, or
right. We have
close their
Netflix.
eyes, or-
Right. We have Netflix. So often, if there's a particular show they like to watch, the technicians keep it documented. They have it up and ready on the right episode, so when they come in, they can watch it. So
That's great.
yeah, absolutely.
You're so accommodating.
We try.
Yeah.
We try really hard to make people feel as comfortable as possible. If they're going to come out of their homes and they're going to step out of their normal daily life because they feel as poorly as they generally do, we want them to come in and feel like, we're embracing them. And if for that 30 minutes they have hope and feel connected again, like that's huge.
Absolutely.
So,
And your office is very warm and inviting, and I'm sure that's on
Yeah.
purpose as well.
yes. Yeah, we have a kind of a consistent theme throughout our offices, similar colors throughout our offices, and it is for a reason. So.
What else do you want the viewers to know about TMS East?
Well, I think that, the biggest thing is that we want people to know that there's hope. I worked in the field of mental health for 18 plus years before I came to Achieve, and I worked with people who were truly suffering with various mental health issues. And we've seen, some amazing changes for people. And when you're at home and you're feeling like this is just how life is going to be and it's never going to get any better, to know that there's a place you can come to and there could be a major change in your life and you could feel hopeful again, I think is a huge thing. And I think why not call and come see us and see if we're the right match for them. The other thing that's very exciting about what we're doing in the company that we work with, Brainsway, is they're doing research right now on PTSD, and they're going to be working with the FDA on some research for opioid addiction, and they're also doing some research on smoking cessation. So, this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
And if we can provide hope to people, to families, to communities throughout Massachusetts and beyond by providing these various treatments, it's amazing to be part of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I had a couple of people, somebody asked at the ribbon cutting when we were in the room about shock therapy.
Right.
And the difference. So could
Yes.
you kind of clarify that?
Sure. With ECT, is a treatment also for depression. And, it has good efficacy. The difference is that with ECT, somebody needs to drive you home, and you have to go under anesthesia. And basically what ECT is doing is it's inducing a seizure, and the induction of the seizure actually helps people's mood. The downside is that often people have memory loss. And for some people, it's sustained memory loss. It doesn't ever come back. And so often people who have had ECT that may have gotten good results don't like the side effects that came with it. And so with our treatment, you don't have memory loss. You don't have the side effect profile of ECT. You can drive yourself to and from.
Watch Netflix.
You can watch Netflix. You're totally there. Like you're with the tech. And speaking of that, like we don't have the side effect profile of ECT. And the biggest thing, the most common thing that people will report is generally during the first week. You know, maybe a third of the people who do it may talk about having a headache from stimulating, and usually they'll just take, Tylenol, and it's more of a transient side effect, and then it goes away. There is a risk, a very small risk for seizures, similar to when people start on certain antidepressants. So we monitor different things that would potentially lower the seizure threshold. But generally speaking, there's not much that you're giving up with as far as side effects go.
And the fact that you can drive yourself is amazing.
Right. The main contraindication for TMS is metal in from the shoulders north, basically. Mm-hmm. And so if you can't have an MRI done, then you can't do this treatment. And the reason is because it heats up the metal. Often, though, people that have surgeries now, many times they use titanium, and we can treat people with titanium. So if it was a procedure from years ago, then, we'd have to look into it. If it's a more recent procedure, then we're probably okay. Either way, I say come to us and we'll investigate it. Yeah. We'll talk to the people involved and figure out if you can do it or not. Also, right now, we can't treat women who are pregnant. Mm-hmm. It has not been approved for that. But we can treat women with postpartum depression, after they give birth. So those are the primary and contraindications. And also, if there was like severe head injuries, we would have to really meet with the patient to figure those things out. So there's a few contraindications, but generally we say, if you're not sure, come in, meet with us, meet with the doctor, and we'll let you know.
Yeah, let us decide.
Right. Yeah, we'll let let you know whether this is an okay treatment or not for you.
Can you give your contact information and also definitely your Chelmsford location, and kind of mention where your other locations are locally as well?
I have to look for that.
I don't blame you. You have a lot of offices.
Okay, so our phone number is 877-297-5816, and our website is www.achievetmseast.com. And then our Chelmsford site's actually located at 1 Meeting House Road, and we're Unit 3. Our Leominster site is at 50 Memorial Drive, which is right behind Leominster Hospital, Suite 102. And our Worcester site is at 19 Cedar Street, and our Westboro site is at 45 Lyman Street, Suite 17. Our other sites are Newton, Quincy, Plymouth. We have one coming hopefully very soon to Dorchester. And then also in Western Mass, Northampton, Amherst, Springfield, and North Adams.
Wow. They're everywhere.
Yeah, and we will be, in the next 3 to 4 months, several new sites will be coming up in Eastern Mass.
Well, we're really happy that you're here.
Yeah.
Thank you for all that you do for the community and for really educating people.
Sure.
It's important to have these conversations.
It absolutely is.
Thank you all for watching. This is filming before Christmas, but airing in the new year. So Happy New Year. And check out our website at greaterlowellchamber.org. We have a lot going on. Thanks so much.